21st century brought with it advances in technology as well as in science, and as such, it created an environment wherein achievers and the most skillful are now required to fill up positions in the society. And the rage and trending now is best and earliest education for the children. Is it proven beneficial for our young of today? Dynamic Living, the Total You, would like to invite you, dear viewers, in the next 60 minutes as we are joined by our guests here as we present to you our episode, Molding the Next Generation. I'd like to welcome to the show, of course, our specialist here, Dr. Cindy Liego. She's a pediatric developmental medical doctor. Welcome to the show, Cindy.
Thank you very much to Hope Channel for the invitation to share with the general public our advocacy for child development.
Yes, at mahalaga talaga yon kasi ang mga kabataan, sabi nga natin, is the pillar of our society. Ito yung future natin, di ba?
Yeah.
And I'd like to welcome to the show also the CEO of Galileo Enrichment Learning Incorporated, Ms. Maria Rowena Mati. Magandang gabi po sa iyo, Ms. Rowie.
Good evening. Thank you very much for inviting us. We're very happy and excited to introduce the Galileo Enrichment Learning Program to Cagayan de Oro.
Yes, heto na. Kasi alam naman natin na tayo mga nanay, di ba? So ang ating mga kabataan, alam natin, nung araw kasi, ewan ko, mga bata pa kayo kaysa akin, no? Pero parang nung araw, ang bata, papasok lang sa school, di ba? So, mga siguro 8 years old, okay na yon, tama na doon. Pero times have changed, and with the changing times, tayo din nag-a-adapt and nag-a-adjust din. I'd like to ask you, Cindy, how do children develop and grow?
Well, there's really a factor of nature, which is the genes that you're born with. If you have, let's say, intelligent parents, then you're more likely to have intelligent children also. And then there's also that big factor of nurture. How are you provided different activities in the day-to-day? Are these activities helpful for the different areas such as how you move, which is movement or motor skills, how you speak or how you understand other people, so that's language. And then there are also areas like we look at like fine motor skills, how you draw, how you write, how you handle objects, and also the social emotional development. How do you deal with other people? How do you interact with them? So all those areas come into play when we talk of child development. There's a biological basis to it. We're talking about how the brain is developing, and the brain is assigned to tell the body and to tell us how to move and how to speak and how to interact.
So in other words,
Yes.
what you're trying to tell us, Dr. Cindy, and our viewers, simple lang. Kung baga, ang paglaki ng bata, o ang kanyang development, ang tinatawag nating paglaki niya, pag-mature niya, naaangkop, it's based on two factors, di ba? Major, which is yung genetic makeup, no?
Yes, the
So, ibig
biological
sabihin, tayong mga
aspect.
magulang, kung matalino tayo, ang probability na yung mga anak natin magagaling din, di ba? So,
Are a
nandun.
bit higher.
Yeah, a bit higher.
Yeah.
Opo. Pero it doesn't mean na,
Doesn't mean
na
that it's
totoo yun
foolproof.
sa
Yeah.
foolproof. O kaya naman, kung kasama dito ay environment.
Yes.
Di ba? Kung paano natin sila i-develop. Doon kayo
Yes.
papasok, Ma'am Rowie, di ba?
Yeah.
So,
So
yung
it-
role ninyo, yes.
So it's really nurture and nature.
Yeah,
So doon kami
together.
pumapasok sa nurture.
As an educator, nakita nyo naman po at napansin ninyo na heto, papasok kayo doon sa nurture na yan, di ba? Kasi nature yung sa biologic sa nurturing. So kayo po, let me ask you na, how many years have you been in the business of educating our young people?
Nako, malalaman mo yung age ko.
Hindi na natin i-compute.
20 years. I actually grew up in a school. Kasi my mom had a preschool, and at that time, early childhood wasn't in fashion yet. Pero at that time, they were starting to read about it. So as early as 2 years old, she wanted to put me in a preschool. At that time, Montessori pa yung uso. So I grew up.
In that environment?
In that environment.
Kaya ko tinanong sa iyo yan, Dr. Cindy, is very simple. Because from the 20 years that you have been in the educational system, nakikita mo siguro yung difference from 20 years back, 15 years back, 10 years back, and today, di ba? So doon na naman natin papasok ngayon. Ano-ano mga changes ang napansin mo? Kasi after that, then Dr. Cindy will try to correlate that.
education is very dynamic. So when we started, the parents were always saying, 3 years old, they're too young. Nung bata kami, nasa bahay lang kami. But we explained to them the curriculum. We explained to them the program. Because we work with experts, math and English. Galileo is a math and English enrichment program for children. So we want children to go to school and we encourage them to start going to school early. Kami supplement lang eh. So the parents now see that when they start young, whatever they experience at an early age, they bring up to the time that they're adult. At saka yung 0 to 7, di ba, Doc? That's the most important. The philosophy behind the program is from Eric Jensen.
0 years to 7
years
of
old.
age. So, ipapa-comment natin si Dr. Cindy. Ratong 0 to 7, is it the most critical part of the growth of a child?
That's where we have our advocacy, because we have seen in our work that the earlier that we start doing things right, the better it will be for the child. It doesn't necessarily mean that you put them in school early, but you have to stimulate the development properly at the earliest possible time. Especially if the children have delays, like they're not talking yet or they're not walking yet, the earlier that we intervene, the better. It's not good to just wait for the child to speak
Pero kasi
without
diba,
doing anything.
You must have seen that in your clinic and you must have seen that in your schools wherein minsan ang mga magulang, they think na it's normal for a 3-year-old not to be speaking or talking, di ba? Parang it's normal for a 4-year-old not to be toilet trained, di ba? O kaya naman walang social skills. So this is the purpose of our show in order for us to, reach out to the parents out there watching us na heto, there are interventions. Kasi yung sinabi mo, Dr. Cindy, stimulation.
Yes.
So, paano ba itong stimulation na to? And how important is it really for the child to grow?
We have our brains, right? We're born with our brains, but the brain isn't really fully developed yet when we come out of our moms. No? So the brain continues to develop even when we're already out in the world. And especially in the first 5 years of life, the brain is really at its fastest in developing. So imagine if the child were not given the proper activities that are stimulating to the brain.
O kaya naman, paupuin mo lang sa harapan ng telebisyon. O kaya
Which is
nasa
happening
iPad,
a
which is happening a lot, di ba? Oo.
That's why when you say there have been changes in the schools and the curriculum, but that is also in response to the changes in the lifestyle of the children nowadays. Imagine, for example, a generation ago, what would the children be doing? They'd be playing outside with other children, but the children nowadays, they're just in front of the television, they're just
Potato
watching
couch
all day.
na sila ngayon.
So you'd really imagine that there will be so many things that are understimulated in the child's development.
O kaya naman naglalaro sa harapan ng computer, di ba?
Yes.
So hindi na ginagamit yung talagang dapat nilang gamitin for that age.
Yes.
So doon kayo papasok. Kasi sabi po ni Dr. Cindy, 0 to 5 is the fastest time na mag-grow yung brain natin. And stimulation is very important. How do you address that?
So that's the time they really absorb a lot, no? Pero it's important that we also know the developmental stages. Kasi before, masyadong traditional. So 3 years old, you tell them to sit down, write their names already, write all the letters. Now, we know through studies that there are stages. So kami, pinag-aralan namin maigi na for 3 years old. And that's why we don't accept younger than that. Because we don't expect them to really be able to sit down and really concentrate younger than 3. Of course, there are exceptions, no? Pero the usual is 3. That's the time you can really start them, ask them to hold the pencil, teach them how to write, yung motor skills, so step by step. So for us, at 3, they come in, we test them, we see what they can do. So we start with motor skills, and then we introduce different topics, and then we go at the pace of the child. So we don't force them.
In other words, individualized siya and
Yes.
personalized ang dating. Kasi hindi naman lahat ng bata will grow and develop
At the
Pareho.
same
exactly
pace.
Yes, at the same rate,
at
di
the
ba?
same rate.
Opo.
That is often the question that is asked of us. That we can't really expect children to be the same. That is true. But there are certain skills that we expect that children already have at a certain age. That is what we call the developmental milestones. I'm sure many of our parents have heard about milestones. In fact, if you search on it, maybe research on it on the internet or something, you'll find a lot of websites that are listing what are the expected skills for a certain age. Like at age 2, the child should be speaking in 2-word phrases, so like that. So because all of this knowledge from previous studies is already on hand for everyone to know, then we always encourage parents to be more proactive when it comes to watching out for their child's development. Are they developing at the right pace? Because these milestones are based on studies of so many children. And so from these studies of so many children, we know that most children should have these milestones at a particular age.
Aha. So sinabi natin na 0 to 5 cognitive yun eh. Ito yung sa brain nila.
Sa brain.
Paano yung other developments niya? Like for sensory motor, paano yun? Is it also at that age? 0
Yes,
to 5?
so cognitive is just one aspect
Yes.
or one track of development. There's also the motor skills. There's also the language skills that are developing from birth until we grow older. So we have milestones for all of these areas. Like, for example, when we talk about walking, because that's a very obvious skill or milestone, most children walk by the age of 1. Some children walk a bit earlier, like as early as 9
9,
months old.
yes.
But some children walk a bit later, like about 1 year and 5 months, some even 1 year, 6 months. So there's a range of age that we consider normal, or what is considered typical for, let's say, majority or 97.5% of the
So
population.
if it doesn't fall into that
Yes,
within,
that range.
that's
when you say that delayed or advanced, on the
Okay.
other hand. Okay.
So
Diyan kami nahihirapan because they bring them to us and all the parents think their child is the best. So,
syempre, sino naman na nanay ang
Oo.
magsasabing hindi best yung anak
so
niya,
3 years
di ba?
old, we notice na there's something different.
Different.
It's so hard to tell the parents, di ba? Kasi you said nga kanina, they don't know. Sometimes it's not that they don't know. Sometimes the parents even, may kilala ko, SPED, teacher. Denial din, di ba? So,
Kasi nga, ang feeling nila, nakakahiya, aminin. O kaya naman, they're so blinded by the, because they're busy, maybe, or
that.
or maybe also the thing na, the fear na something is wrong with the child.
Yes.
So, ito yung factors to be considered, di ba?
yes.
That's why sometimes they come into you very late
Very late,
already.
yes. Sometimes, and it saddens us that sometimes it takes a long time for parents to bring their children to us. It's like for all the past years, they've just been waiting for the child to show, let's say, the milestone and thinking, oh, the child will eventually speak and all that, but the child's still not speaking at the age of 4. That's really late. And I always tell the parents that, if you had come to me much earlier, like you had come to me at 2 years old, we could expect more changes than if you start coming to me at 4 or 5.
There's another way of looking at it eh. Kasi minsan itong mga batang ito dinadala sa GenPed eh, di ba? So it's also educating our
Yes.
colleagues out there, yung mga family physicians, yung mga general practitioners natin, na these are the things they need to be watching out for so they can make the necessary referrals. Making a referral does not mean hindi nila alam yun. Kundi, you're now trying to elevate the case. In the same manner sa inyo po, when you do your structure, di ba? Kasi may structure po kayo sa inyong program ninyo. So you would also know na heto angkop sa batang ito or maybe something else can be done for this child.
that's the beauty of our program because as I mentioned earlier, we teach everything in 5 different ways. So we touch on the different aspects. So there's a part where we check them when they write. There's a part where they speak and they have to listen. So dun namin nakikita, some children, we have one student, it took a while for the child to really get the topic. Yung pala, he's deaf. So the teacher realized, every time the teacher would speak, gumaganon yung bata. then there's something wrong with the ear of the child.
So you train your teachers to be very, very sensitive to this little manifestation, so they can also, relate and correlate with what the child is going through and talk to the
Talk to the
parents.
parents, yeah. And that's the hardest nga because
the hardest, yeah.
they always say, ganyan talaga yan. Or, mana yan sa daddy. Kung minsan, ADHD, mana yan sa daddy niya, malikot din yung dad.
So yun yung inaano nila. So paano yung pagdating na, we're talking about the typicals, di ba? But remember also that there are the extremes,
Yes.
di ba? So how do we handle them?
So first is really to have a good assessment of the child's current status of skills, because most children are different from one another. So it's very important to have a good detailed assessment by someone who knows how to assess the child's skills in the different areas. Because from there, from a good assessment, then we can find out, okay, what are the strong areas, what are the weak areas, what do we need to address first, what do we need to put more hours on first, and then all that. So you can't actually generalize what we can do for these children without looking at the child as an individual.
So in other words, hindi siya nakapackage.
Yes.
Kasi 'di ba, in the practice of medicine kasi minsan meron tayong tinatawag na package diseases. So kung ito yung sakit mo, ito yung gamutan mo, 'di ba? Pero for development, hindi siya po pwedeng ganun kasi it varies from one individual to the next.
Even with children having the same medical diagnosis, they still have different strengths and weaknesses. So it's very important to look at them as an individual. So an assessment is very important. And from the assessment, we work with teachers. We
So doon
work
papasok ngayon kayo.
we work with therapists. We work with
The parents also.
the parents. I really speak with the parents, communicate with them a lot with what they need to do at home and what they need to coordinate for their child, because it has to be multidisciplinary. A lot of people
Are
helping the
involved.
child.
Yes.
Hindi siya
hindi
one
siya
person.
isang tao lang. Hindi po pwedeng iiwan lang sa school. So sa inyo po, Ma'am Rowie, pagka mga ganyan na meron kayong mga extremes of cases, I'm very sure you do get enrollees also na, like for example, mga ADHD, o kaya naman yung mga geniuses na mga ganyan. So are you also capable, are your teachers capable of handling them?
Since we're educators and we're not doctors, we're not allowed to label. That's why we work closely. That's why I'm happy to meet Doc today, because we really need them. So sometimes, pag may nanonotice na kami, we refer.
But your teachers are actually trained to detect all of this.
Yes.
Para they can coordinate well.
They can just see that there's something different. If they can't concentrate, if there's no eye contact, yun.
Kaya ko po
sign na
tinanong
yun.
sa inyo yun, Ma'am Rowie, kasi sometimes, like in a traditional school, in a traditional classroom, di po ba, yung mga traditional teachers natin, sa sobrang dami ng inaalaga ang mga students, sometimes they miss out on these little things. And there are warning signals. There are alarming signals that you need to watch out for as an educator, na heto dapat ganito ang management or supervision nito. So what are the warning signals na, kumbaga, that should alert me as a parent na, oops, teka lang, maybe something need to be done.
Yeah. When it comes to the school setting, the most common signals would be, first, the child is not paying attention. So that includes making eye-to-eye contact with the teacher, listening to the teacher's instructions, following instructions, staying put for the task, okay? We don't expect all children, especially the younger ones, to stay put for prolonged periods. But they're supposed to have enough attention for instructions. And then there's children may have a lack of language skills, so that would include receptive language, meaning understanding. And there's also expressive language, which is how much you can talk or what the sentences are and all that. And then there are also other things such as emotional stability.
Palaging
if there's a child
umiiyak,
who's
o kaya laging
having a
naaaway,
tantrum or
tantrum.
getting into trouble a lot, that's also a signal that the child's development may not be typical or the child's development may have some problems that need to be addressed.
So, hindi po pwedeng sabihin lang natin na okay lang yan kasi ma-outgrow niya yan, di ba?
That's I think, the difference between this generation and the past generation. Because in the past, when we didn't have so many therapies and special educators and specialized interventions, there was really no choice for parents but just to wait it out to happen. But in this day and age, when you have so many services around, we should be more proactive. If you notice something, do something about it.
Yes, hindi yung hihintayin mo.
Yes.
Which is the same way with you, di ba? Yung sa inyo is you are proactive also. You don't wait it out.
For us, what we have is an enrichment program. There's a difference between tutorial and enrichment. Tutorial would be really if they have a test tomorrow and they have to be able to pass it and they haven't mastered, they go to a tutor, or if they need someone to help them with homework. For us, we want to start them while they're young. Filipinos are normally, they have a difficult time with math and English. So for us, as early as 3 years old, if you start them young, and let them master, when they get to school, whatever is taught to them, madali nilang maintindihan.
So kumbaga, more of you are trying to develop the foundation already of the child.
And even if it's just math and English, it takes care of all the other subjects. And
Ay,
yun na nga.
hindi po pwede, Ma'am Rowena, math and English lang yan. Kasi yan yung pinaka-foundation and pinaka-basic yata sa lahat ng dapat nilang pag-aralan.
That's the basic. And then, as mentioned earlier, the teachers are also trained to look at other things. So, even if they're teaching math and English, yung values tinitingnan din namin. Then, the attitude of the child, because learning is not just learning the numbers. Yung right attitude is very important. So they're trained, our teachers are all graduates and they're even trained in Manila, and there's ongoing training, di ba? That's very important.
So continuing talaga ang education nila.
Oo, kasi they cannot give if they don't have
what they cannot give, di ba? So yun yung mahalaga doon. Ang mahalaga the people would understand na an enrichment program is different from a tutorial, di ba? So paano yun, Dr. Cindy, enrichment? Heto ba, kasama ba to sa pag-develop ng bata dapat?
Well, it's very important to look at what the child is good at. Okay, that's one. So the strengths, what the child is weak at, and then it's the parents who will decide what activities they want to provide for their particular child, given the child's strengths and weaknesses. So there will really be children who will benefit from an enrichment program such as Galileo's. And then there will also be other children that will probably benefit from, let's say, sports activities or art or music so now it depends on the parents to decide what activities are good for their particular child.
Basta ang mahalaga doon is it will actually enhance the development of the child na maging ready siya, globally competitive siya paglaki niya, di ba? So we'll take a very short break, and when we return, we'll continue on with our discussion here, molding this generation of young people that we have. Please stay tuned.
Unsa sa tan-aw nimo ang gikinahanglan sa atong kabataan para magtubo sila na maayo ang lawas ug ang utok?
Hatagag maayong pagkaon at timanon, maayong pagtubo sa iyang pagkabata.
Mag-eskwela, magsaktuan kaon.
Ang ako ay kasulti sa mga bata, maayo nga naagi untay sustansya, haron maayo ilang pagtubo. Ug walay sustansya na minus ang tubo sa bata. Ug naalang ni ikapalit sa mga sustansya, kinanglan namo nga among bata nga maayo gyud ang tubo sa kabataan. Ug naami ikapalit og sustansya, pero wala may sustansya, mga gulay na lang ang amo. Sa among gulay, mga udlot sa kamuti, mga saluyot, mga alagbati, kalamunggay, batong, mga cabbage, carrots, patatas.
Nang hatagan sila maayong pagkaon sama sa mga kuan, mga utan, mga prutas.
Siyempre, ang mga ginikanan ang nagigitudloan sa mga maayong pamatasan, ilang mga anak, para nga may masubay po sa ilang panguna-una nga maayo o matarong. Di siyempre, kung mag-isip kag mayong matarong, nga to gina sa imong mayong panglawas.
Ang akong, sigon sa akong kaugalingon, kay retired teacher man ko, maay siguro nga ipasinter na to ang Ginoo. Unya dahil ikaduha sa dayon, atong biyaan ang kanabitong mga kuan karon panang sa ngalan kanang text o kana sa dayong inana mga nit piso nit inana bitaw kay mo ginang silbi nga kakabuangan karon sa mga bata mawala na ilang kuan nila ang ilang kahibalo sa eskwelahan nya naana sila center niya ana karon kanang piso nit inana bitaw pag kanang panahon ta karon nga bakasyon nante isinter nila ilang kaugalingon pagbasa-basa sa kuan nila kay aron makakuha sila maayo nga edukasyon bitaw nya mo na akong naobserbahan karon sa mga kabataan kay ikumparar nimo sa mga bata nga wala bitaw makatandog niana naagid sa ila gid ang sentro gid sa ilang pagtuon.
Usa man siguro kay kaatubagan na ma'am. Himuon na ang Ginoo sentro gid sa atong kinabuhi. Wala na milayan kay ang Ginoo mo may source sa tanan.
Welcome back to Dynamic Living, the Total You, with our episode, Molding the Next Generation Child Development. No? So, andi dito po ang aking guest parents, si Dr. Cindy at saka si Ma'am Rowie from Galileo. So, balikan natin, before we took off kanina, I was asking you, di ba, na it's very important for us to have a very good and strong coordination and cooperation with the parents and the caregivers, di ba? So, how do we go about that para makuha natin maging proactive din sila with us?
That's what I actually spend a lot of time doing in my clinic. After I assess the child, I really spend quality time with the parents, talking with them about what they can do at home in terms of daily activities. Because if you really think about it, when we enroll the child, let's say in an activity such as an enrichment program, it's like twice a week, 2 hours at the most per session. But most of the time, they're really at home with their parents. So it's very important for parents to know what activities will be helpful for their child and what activities are not really helpful for the child.
So in other words, kailangan yung mga magulang, they should have the time for their children, lalo na sa developmental years na ito. Hindi natin dapat iasa kay yaya o kaya naman hahayaan lang natin. But the biggest problem there is actually yung mga absentee parents, di ba? And then magugulat ka na lang na gano'n. So paano sa Galileo naman, Rowie?
Kami, we really start with an orientation. We don't accept any child, even if they're there na and ready to pay, unless the parents are ready to come for an orientation. They really sit down with us, 20 to 30 minutes lang naman. But for us, it's important for them to know what the program is all about, what they can expect. And then for us also, to ask them more or less their expectations. So, nagmamatch kami, oo. And then they give also something about their child. Because when they come in the first time, hindi naman namin siya kilala. Of course, we spend a lot of time assessing and trying to see what kind of person they are. Pero we want something that's coming from them. Sometimes, it's the lola because yun na nga, pag OFW and they stay with the lola, pero dapat nandun din siya. So there's someone that we have to work with. And it doesn't end there. After the orientation, the child will come to us twice a week. They do some homework. They don't have to teach them. They just remind them to do it because we teach them also discipline and study habits. Pero what's more important is yung every quarter, we give an evaluation. We have a parents-teachers meeting. We sit down. We tell them, oh, these are the things that your child did in the center. How the child is doing, yung progress, and what else the child can learn. And we emphasize that we have to work together. Kami yung magtuturo, pero they have to be there to support it.
O kasi ilang oras lang naman sila nandun. In the same way, ilang oras lang sila nasa clinic mo, di ba? So mahalaga, yung kasama nila sa bahay should be there to know
It
and
takes a community talaga to raise a child.
Yes, it takes a community to raise a child. Hindi lang iisa yung solo, si teacher, o kaya naman si Dr. Cindy lang ang bahala doon.
Kami nga, we even have Yaya seminar. In our seminars, we see the lolos and lolas. Alam mo, sometimes they even cry when the speaker shares with them the things that they can do for the children.
Kasi
Pero,
they learn from there.
importante.
Wala naman, learning doesn't stop, at a certain age. It continues
Tuloy-tuloy,
on.
yeah.
So, what about yung mga late bloomers na sinasabi natin? Do we really have late bloomers in terms of developmental milestones? And how late should we wait for them to catch up with the typical?
Again, the term late bloomers is actually
A misnomer.
often misused also, often as an excuse for a child who has delays. Saying that, oh, the child will just catch up or will just turn out okay. And in several cases, that is true. The child really grows up to be okay. But then, that's what I always emphasize, that rather than just wait for the child to bloom, it's better if you do something to make sure that the child will develop. Yes,
Proactive,
rather than just wait for it to happen. So that's really one of the main points here, that parents should be empowered when it comes to their child's development. They should know that if they learn enough about it, they can find activities that will be helpful for their children, and they will try to avoid activities that are not helpful so that the child's development will be maximal.
Yun yung gusto kong sundan, Cindy, Yung sinabi mong maximized, Kasi dapat we should be able to stimulate the child in a manner na yung optimum best niya na-achieve natin, yung potential niya na-develop natin, di ba?
Yeah.
So pagdating sa inyo naman sa center, balikan ko muna yung sinabi natin na you've been in the business, not just in the business, but it's your profession kasi to be an educator. You started educating, di ba? And then eventually, you knew na heto yung kailangan ngayon. And so you developed that system. Would you say na heto is brought about the changes in the way you deliver hetong mga ganito ngayon, mga enrichment programs is you've seen na through the years, heto talaga yung kailangan sa generation na ito?
Yeah. Like Doktora, it's really an advocacy. We really saw pagdating ng bata ng grade 1, they get nervous, they don't want to go to school.
Umiiyak yan?
Umiiyak. But if you really look at it, it's math and English. So, at that time when I graduated, I was talking to some educators. We were thinking, because we already had a school, my mom had a school, and she had several branches of it. Early child, panay preschool. So I said, if I'm going to help out, I should be able to add something. That's when we decided to come up with a program that will help children in math and English. Because the Philippines also is behind when it comes to education. So for us to be able to help even one student at a time, talaga ang nakita namin, math and English siguro yung dapat simulan.
So, how do we help? Sabi natin, heto, we try to stimulate them. We become proactive parents, no, or caregivers. Are there really certain activities na that will help them, be able to catch up with the rest? Lalo na yung mga, if they have delays.
If they have delays. Again, this is in general, because I mentioned earlier that each child is unique when it comes to strengths and weaknesses. But there are certain activities that are started even in infancy, when the child is still a baby, that will really maximize development. A lot of it is based on human-to-human interaction. Children talking to their parents, parents talking to their babies, and all that. Teaching them new words, teaching them to recognize pictures and all that. That starts even in infancy. So a lot of parents nowadays can tend to become so busy that they miss out on these activities.
Siguro dahil,
and it's sad.
Siguro kasi dahil masyado ng yung in terms of trying to find a way by which the family can survive, di ba? Na napaka-competitive sa trabaho.
Yes.
So you
At saka
try,
both parents are working.
Yes, well, hindi gaya nung araw na ang nanay naiiwan. So si nanay talaga nag-aalaga. Di ba si tatay yung nagtatrabaho. Ngayon hindi na. Hindi ka magsusurvive kung si tatay lang, di ba? So yeah, you're right.
So even simple activities like that, if started at a young age, are really helpful for the children. But what do we see happening in this generation? Most children are placed in front of the TV or in front of gadgets, even at a young age. And so we always say, you know what happens, even if these things are educational, if it's not facilitated by someone who's a live person talking to the child, it still won't work because it's the human-to-human interaction that matters. So even if you use computers that are educational, if there's no one there facilitating what the child is supposed to learn, it really won't help the child. In fact, it can be detrimental to the development of the child. Why? Because the child is left alone by himself watching TV all day. No one's talking to the child. So there's no language stimulation. There's no teaching.
And also, walang social interaction.
And there's no social
Diba?
interaction.
Ay, mahalaga yata yun eh. That's one of the important things that we need
Yes.
to teach our children of this generation
Yes.
to socially interact and to be able to sympathize and empathize.
Yes,
Diba?
that's always a comment also that I get from parents when I ask, oh, so doesn't he have any playmates or other children and in the neighborhood? Because I remember when I was young, I was just out in the street all day playing with neighborhood kids. And then that in itself is already a very stimulating activity. And so the parents always say, but all of the other kids in the neighborhood are also inside watching TV. So it's so sad.
parang sad siya kasi nagiging kaugalian na hindi naman dapat,
Yeah,
di ba?
hindi
So pagdating
dapat.
sa school, sa inyo naman, you give them time also to interact among themselves.
That's why it's good because instead of staying home, when they come to us, at least they're guided. The
Yes,
teachers
facilitate.
facilitate all the activities, and it's all planned, and it's all according to their age, according to how they improve, according to their own pace.
And they also learn to develop friends. Diba?
The socialization
Kasi may
then, because they work
socialization
together.
inside.
Yes.
So dito sa Region 10, having come, so dito, let's talk about Region 10 muna. Sa Region 10, what are the most common developmental problems that you get to see?
That I get to see. I see a lot of language delay. That's the first one. Really a lot of language delay.
It's not because intellectually hindi sila magaling. Ano?
Yes.
Oh, yun yung ano
it's really just language. Because we can assess different areas and we see, let's say, the nonverbal intelligence of the child is okay. He's able to figure things out, but he doesn't talk. So it's really language delay that's the most common when it comes to developmental delays. But there are also rarer cases such as autism, ADHD that tend to get a lot of media attention. But the most common is really language
So hindi
delay.
naman talaga totoo na the number one is ADHD or autism.
No, it's still language delay. That's more common than these two. In fact, even when you look at studies in other countries, there's still ADHD and autism are still considered a bit of the rarer problems, although they're increasingly gaining in numbers in the past several years.
Or is it possible also na itong mga language delays na ito have come to the attention na kasi usually these are the first things that parent would notice, di ba? Na parang bakit kaya doktora yung anak ko hindi pa nagsasalita? Or talagang siya yung pinaka-ano pa
Pero
rin,
what's the cause of that kaya daw?
We're thinking because studies have shown that there has really been a rise in developmental disorders in general. There could be changes really in our lifestyle that's not healthy for a developing child's brain. Like maybe things in our environment, pollutants,
or maybe
things
the
that we eat.
the preservatives, the chemicals that we
and
have,
maybe
the drugs that we have.
the pregnancies of the mothers are not so healthy anymore.
Kasi
or-
even with us, since
Even
we're,
with you in the center.
Since we're an enrichment program, they look for things for them to do, di ba? Because a lot of them don't go to regular schools. So a lot more are coming. So sabi namin parang dumadami nga sila.
Parang
Unlike
dumadami.
dati. So you would also see a rising trend
Yes,
in
oo.
your
So I
class.
thought maybe now they're able to identify it lang. Pero yun na nga, Dr. saying
I
parang,
think we really believe that the numbers are increasing. Even if you go to a regular, traditional school,
yes.
yeah. So if you look at the student population, most of the regular schools, for example, really have children with special needs already. They just vary in severity. But they really need to admit these children into the school already because some of them are really capable of learning the lessons for their level with just some accommodations. But also because there are already increasing numbers of these children that it's hard to, it would not be fair to just separate them in, let's say,
At
in
saka
another
hindi
school.
healthy eh.
It's not
Diba?
healthy
It's not
for
going to
them
be healthy
also.
emotionally,
Yeah.
psychologically to the child
Yeah.
to be separated from the mainstream.
Yes.
Which you mentioned, Ma'am Rowie, kanina eh, na you are, in your enrichment program, you're also preparing them to be brought to the mainstream, di ba?
So we accept also special children, but they have to be, they have to have a recommendation from the doctor. Yun na nga, kasi hindi rin namin pwedeng hindi accept, kasi kawawa naman.
Pero mismo yung program ninyo is actually geared towards preparing them to join the mainstream.
Oo, basta this is for regular children, but we
Yes.
accommodate children with special needs with an assessment and yung guide na from the doctor.
And you also have modules for them,
Oo.
for this special type
Yeah,
of children.
because this is for any age, and the program is customized per child. Eh. So, kung minsan their biological age is different from their mental age. So,
yes.
basta we take an assessment and then we work from there. Pero, so we accommodate them, and kailangan lang may guidance. always.
So how do we view heto ngayong para bang kailangan ang mga kabataan at this certain age they have to go to kindergarten and then they have to go to grade 1. How do we look at it in the total psyche of the child?
Well, it shouldn't be harmful if the schools know how to developmentally provide the correct activities or the teaching approaches for that age.
For that age.
Okay, so we see a lot of early childhood centers or preschool centers that specialize in developmentally appropriate activities. So in that sense, the school and the teachers should have an understanding of what children are expected to do at that age and not burden them with things that they're not yet developmentally prepared to do. So if the school is prepared to do such things, meaning they have the teachers have the adequate background or understanding
So
of child
mahalaga talaga
development.
nito, Dr.
Yes.
Yasin, the teachers are actually, heto sila yung pinakamahalaga na component dito, na they have to be trained. Di ba? Hindi lang basta ordinary na ako, ay gagraduate ako ng education at ako'y magtuturo ng ganyan. So times really have changed. Kasi
Yes.
nung araw, pagka may Bachelor of Science in Education or AB, ganito, pwede na eh. Ngayon,
Nowadays, it's usually another
sub.
training for teachers that they specialize in early childhood or it's a separate course in some schools. Early childhood
In other words, para bang,
education is a
para
separate
bang there
course.
is already now, everybody is already aware na kumbaga that is where we are going and we need to address the needs.
Yes.
There's an understanding now that yung early childhood is important, and yun na nga, it's different from the older ages. At saka mas importante nga siya. So the teachers here shouldn't just be intelligent. They have to have the heart.
Yes, yun yung
They
gusto
have to
kong
have the
i-ano.
heart.
So dapat may puso talaga sila. Passion talaga nila.
Kaya hirap na hirap kami maghanap ng teachers because, yun na nga, you interview them, not of what they know, but pati also yung how they're going to take care of the children. Kasi the younger ones learn more from what they feel, what they see, more than what you really teach.
Yes, di ba?
Yes,
So hindi
that's
siya,
very
it's more of
important.
instinctual na ano yung feeling niya towards the one who's giving
Yes,
the
that matters
lessons.
a lot.
Oo.
Yes.
Oo, di ba?
Especially in the preschool years, the type
teachers
of
nga don't have
teacher,
to speak eh. Nakikita nila.
the type of approach will matter, the type of personality of the teacher will even matter. Experience will help because the teachers who are very experienced in that age group know how to place themselves when it comes to different types of children. It matters more in that age
In
group.
terms of readiness, do we have a way by which we can say na itong batang ito is really ready for this?
For formal schooling.
Yes, for formal
if we're
schooling.
talking about formal schooling,
Yes.
because there are also schools that are not really formal schools, but more of developmental centers. But if we're talking about formal schooling, in general, we would want the child to already have some sort of attention for instructions. We will also want the child to be already have some socio-emotional development in the sense that they can interact with classmates, most of the time peacefully, although we can't expect it to be perfect,
Peacefully,
but some sort of, let's say, sharing of materials or toys, waiting for their turn. Um, some, some schools, if not many schools, would like the child to be toilet trained already. Um, and then we would really want or wish that the child would have enough language skills to be able to say what he needs or what he
In
wants.
other words, pwede na siyang mag-interact,
Yes,
di ba? Mahalaga
yes,
yun eh.
yes.
Pero sa inyo, sa Galileo naman, Ma'am Rowie, sinabi mo kanina na structured siya, modular, pacing siya, angkop sa bata. Yun yung ano ninyo eh. And you have teachers who are trained as well as with a heart to be really teach these children eh. In your years of having this Galileo training, have you seen, kumbaga, yung mga nakatapos na sa inyo? And then, syempre, babalik yan. I'm very sure merong mga bumabalik at magpasalamat. Do you see them to be, would you say na they are more successful if they are to be compared to the general population? Or would you say na medyo na-improve talaga sila at nakatulong yung inyong enrichment program to them?
As early as even just staying in the program for a year, a lot of children show ano talaga progress because a lot of them, because they work with numbers and they read every day, they become confident. So, kung minsan in a few months, 6 months, you'll see that they're the ones who recite in class. They're the ones who are excited to go to school because they're ready. And the attitude nga is different. Usually after a year in the program, they're the ones who are top in their class. Although we always tell the parents, don't push them to be honors. Kaya lang you can't take it away from the parents. You want them to be the top. And it happens. After a year in the program, they're the top. They represent their schools in quiz bees and mga competitions. And then those who have graduated are in good universities already.
So, napakaganda din pala, no? Kasi it helps them talaga to be the best there is in their, maybe in their group or in their class. At least ba, kumbaga merong pagkakaiba. Kaysa naman kung hahayaan lang natin. Of course, money matters, you know, sometimes it's difficult also kasi syempre, it entails money. But then again, anything and everything for our children to grow, bakit hindi, di ba? Hahanapan ng paraan. So, when we say, how would a child learn best? What would be the technique there for the parents who are watching us? Na, heto will be one good way of encouraging our children to become the best there is wherever they are.
Well, first, the parents need to know their child well. That's really the first ingredient. Because if the parents don't understand their child and how their child is strong in some areas and weak in some areas, it's difficult to answer that question as to how they learn best. Because different children have different approaches when it comes to learning. But in general, I also add the ingredient of children should enjoy learning.
Ayun, gusto ko yan.
They should
Kasi
enjoy.
di ba parang dapat nurture tayo eh.
Yes.
Hindi siya dapat na dahil na sa paaralan yung bata, parang panay study, there's no fun. In other words, learning should be fun.
Yes.
Para na-enjoy nila. You remove the fun in the learning, it becomes, you know, monotonous.
Yes.
It becomes boring. At the same time, you know, the drive there isn't there.
That's true. That's true. Our centers are colorful and we have characters, but all of that, everything is studied, no? The colors that we use, the characters, because we believe children learn more when they're learning while they're having fun, and they remember what they learn when they learn it while they're having fun.
Yes.
So yung fun element is very important.
Yeah. Sometimes it's not what is taught to you, like the lesson, but how you approach learning. Like if you don't know something, how do you approach it? Are you confident that you will be able to learn it if given enough time and if given enough resources? Or are you the type of child who becomes afraid? Okay, it's very difficult. I can't do it. Okay, so some attitude plays a big role, and the attitude is usually formed by the experiences that the child has had when it comes to schools, to teachers.
At saka dala-dala nila yan
Yes.
paglaki nila, wherever they are.
Wherever, because you can't possibly know everything in the world, right? Even if you go to college, university, you're always faced with something that's challenging for you. But it's the attitude that the child has towards learning. If the child thinks of learning as fun, if something is new, it's fun, it's nice to learn something new. if there's that self-motivation to learn something new, then that will
And
solve
they
a
will
lot
always
of
look
things.
forward to to every day na they
Session,
go
yeah,
and
oo.
attend. Yes.
That's what we're proud of also in Galileo. The children, because they work with numbers and they read every day, if they're presented with numbers, kahit fraction or may mga exponents, ganyan, they feel that they can, do, it. Because the attitude is there na, I can do this, these are just numbers. Yung parang,
So hindi sila natatakot
hindi sila
to learn
natatakot.
something new and something more difficult as
And
the previous
what's
day.
important is they want to learn. Because hindi ba, you'll be learning forever. Hindi ka pwede mag-stop because you graduated. So the attitude of wanting to learn and enjoying learning is very important.
So how do we invite our parents, the community, to help us out so that the development of our children for this generation, we can ready them to become better citizens?
I would really like to encourage parents to spend time with their children, spend quality time, get to know them as they grow older. What can they do? What they cannot do yet? Where else do you think you can improve? Or what are the talents that they have? Because that's very important for parents to know their children. Because once a parent knows their child well, then he has a better idea of what the child needs. And then from there, the parent can look for what is available in the locality in terms of different types of schools or different types of programs, enrichment programs or activities that is fit for the child's personality, the child's strengths and weaknesses.
So in other words, it always starts and goes back to the parent.
Yes.
So hindi siya nagsa-start sa bata, kundi tayong mga magulang. It always
Yes,
starts with us
yes.
and ends with us, di ba? So sa inyo naman po, how can the community help out or the parents?
From the beginning, we really involve the parents. So it starts with an orientation. And then as we go on, we have parents-teachers meeting and the seminars that we have for them. We do parenting seminars. We do a lot of sessions with even the yayas and the grandparents and the educators. That's why in Galileo, like on July 4th, it's our 10th year. And every 2 years, we have a big seminar, latest trends in education, Singapore math, and ang invited parents, teachers, and anyone in the community is interested lang. Because yun na nga, it takes everyone. We have to involve them in the success.
Kasi sila yung mga stakeholders eh.
Yeah.
So what can you say na masasabi mo talaga, Rowie? Heto, stand out ito when it comes to Galileo enrichment programs?
I think it's the way we teach because we teach everything in 5 different ways kasi multisensorial na nga eh. So there's a part where we have tactile materials because they have to touch it, they have to feel it. Then we have flashcards so they can see and they speak because when you present them a flashcard, they see the number and you ask them to say it. And then we also have a book galaxy where we encourage again the children to read. Because children don't read anymore.
Yes.
Because the parents don't read.
Yes, totoo yan. Di ba nung araw tayo palaging hawak natin libro. Ngayon yata iba na ang hinahawakan, hindi na books.
Hindi na tablet, pero they're playing games.
Yeah, so you still encourage them to read books.
Yeah, we encourage them to read. And then we at the heart of the program, we still have worksheets because they have to learn how to write, and that's the way we assess them. And then we have a computer area. Pero yon, we teach them, you can't stay too long. There are softwares that are related to what they're learning, but limited yung time. Because yun na nga, they're young. Some parents nga,
In other words, kasi structured nga siya.
And we tell the parents, even at home, they shouldn't be playing with the computers the whole day.
So balikan ko ikaw, Dr. Cindy. In your practice as a pediatric developmental specialist, masasabi mo ba na in the coming 10 years or 20 years from today, magiging mas marami pa itong ating magiging problems in terms of development sa ating mga kabataan unless we do something now?
I hope there won't be a rise in cases, even if it's against my practice. But we really hope that in general, children will grow well, not only in terms of physical growth, but also mental, emotional, behavioral aspects of their well-being. This is because if children grow well and develop well, of course our society will also be better.
Yes.
So that's really our advocacy. That's why we're not only, in our practice, we try hard to educate not only the parents, but also the teachers that we come in contact with, and also the communities around us, so that there will be more attention given by everyone in the community towards early childhood development, and not just take the children for granted.
Yes, mahalaga talaga yun. Ano?
We can work together pala.
Yes.
Every time we have seminars, we can
Yes,
ask you to
you
speak
should work
also.
together. Kasi yun din yung inyong target ninyo. Advocacy niyo rin yan.
And sometimes one child is with us, it's the next one who needs help.
Yes, napakabilis po ng oras ko dito sa Dynamic Living the Total You. Tapos na po kami sa aming discussion. Napakaganda po. I'd like to thank my guests, Ma'am Rowie. What is your message to our viewers?
Well, I'm happy to announce that Galileo Enrichment Learning Program is now in Cagayan de Oro. Galileo has more than 36 branches all over the Philippines, but we're happy to be in Cagayan de Oro now. Galileo is a math and English enrichment program for children 3 to 12 years old. We also teach Singapore math. This is the first enrichment program that brought in Singapore math to the Philippines. In Galileo, children become very good in school, even if there are just 2 subjects. And we're sure that children will be happy to learn and they'll be successful when
Where
they
is
grow.
your Galileo now located?
Our Galileo Cagayan de Oro is in Knights Bridge Building, Thomas Saco Street, 15th Avenue, Makahilig.
Makasandig.
Makasindig.
Yes, it's in front Mercury Makasandig.
Yeah,
di ba?
okay. And the phone number is 0917 542-7752.
Yes, we will
also have
flash that at the monitor, no, para maalala nila so they can call and contact if they have inquiries. What about Dr. Cindy? What is your message to our viewers?
Okay. I would like to encourage all parents to be proactive when it comes to their children's development. Know your child well, know your child's strengths and weaknesses well, so that you know what activities will be good for them and what activities will not be good for them.
And where do they see you if they
And
need to consult?
if you detect a problem, to please ask your pediatrician for help. Your pediatrician can already screen for some problems, and if needed, you can consult the developmental pediatricians in town. That's me and Dr. Ana Doroja. I am at Polymedic Plaza, Kauswagan, and also at the Northern Mindanao Medical Center.
Yes, so hopefully you'll get to see her there. Remember, dear viewers, that each of our child or our children are unique, and they are created differently by our Creator. And our children's basic needs should be well provided for. But beyond the basic needs would be their education, as well as watching over their developmental milestones. In Matthew 7:11, it says there that if our Heavenly Father is, granting us gift, how much more, if we are giving gifts to our children, how much more our Heavenly Father. So if we need something from Him, then ask from Him and it will be given to us freely. Magandang gabi po sa ating lahat. This is the kind of beauty that goes deeper and lasts longer.
Dare to live well with this new show. Dare new episodes on Sundays at 11 a.m. Replays on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, also at 11 a.m. So don't dare miss it.
To me, the joy, which money cannot buy.
Lee and very hospitable, and most of all,
Take part of your operation.
Dynamic Living returns with new episodes now on Mondays, 6 to 7 p.m. Dynamic Living, the Total You on Mondays.